Before we jump into the episode today, I want to share something with you from my heart. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really can't tell you how much your support means to me. We've been doing the podcast now for almost 4 years. I can't even believe it. And I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you that listens, shares an episode with your friends, sends me a DM or a text message letting me know how an episode resonated with you or any aha moments. Seriously, I couldn't be more grateful to be able to create this podcast. It has been such a blessing in my life, and I love hearing the ways it's been able to provide value in yours as well. One thing you might not know is how much work it takes to be consistent with a podcast. In fact, did you know that the majority of podcasts don't make it past episode number 10? And we are well beyond that. And it's just a lot thinking of the episodes, recording them, editing them, managing the guests, making sure that everything runs smoothly and gets uploaded consistently and regularly. And so that's why I have created an amazing opportunity for you to support the podcast monetarily. And in exchange for that, you will get exclusive premium subscriber content. So for as little as $3 a month, you can become a premium subscriber of the podcast. And every month I will upload new voice-guided workouts and breathwork meditation audio for you. So that way you can work out with me, coaching you in your ears. You can also take a moment to reduce your stress and relax and come down and ground down with one of my breathwork audios. So if that is on your heart to support the podcast for as little as $3 a month to become a premium podcast subscriber, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the growth of this podcast. I appreciate you. If you're interested, click the link in the description, become a premium podcast subscriber, new content every month, and while supplies last, I'll send you an exclusive podcast coffee mug so you can have your self-love and sweat coffee every morning. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, break down barriers, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, Lunden Souza. Hey friend, it's me, Lunden Souza, online lifestyle transformation coach. I help people all over the world just like you who know they are meant for more, get their mind right and their body tight, and go from crazy busy to crazy happy. And hey, if it's our first time meeting, welcome. So happy to have you. And if you've been with us for a while, it's so great that you're here too. I'm really excited to share this episode of the Self-Love and Sweat podcast with you. Hey, I want to tell you quickly about 2 ways that you can get connected beyond the podcast to uplevel your health, your life, your fitness, reach your goals, but also support the podcast as well. So the first option is our Self-Love and Sweat monthly members only meetup. We meet up on the last Saturday of the month on Zoom for 90 minutes to cover some important topics, to answer your questions, and then to also do a workout together. It's a great way to have that support, have that accountability, get supercharged, and get reminded that there are other people all over the world on this journey of self-love and sweat, and you don't have to do it alone. You can join your first month for only $1 using code SELFLOVE1 at checkout, and then it's $27 a month after that. So you go to lifelikeLondon.com/monthly, use the code SELFLOVE1 at checkout to try us out, test it out for only $1 for your first month, and then you can be on board to listen to the podcast, join up on the meetups, and just really feel like you're connected and thriving on this journey to reach your goals. The second option is our Strong at Home for Women 8-week dumbbell-only workout plan. We have women all over the world getting stronger from the inside out right at home, right? So we're ready to take action to get stronger despite the circumstances of the world. And we know that we're not about to do that alone. So embark on this 8-week journey with us. You can go to lifelikeLondon.com/strong at home. You can pick up your 8-week plan. And the exciting thing is that every 8 weeks, we open it up, myself and my co-coach, for VIP all access coaching with us. So not only do you get the plan, but you get Zoom fireside chats with us. You get an exclusive way to chat with us anytime so you can ask your questions, share your progress. And we're always continuing to stay connected and motivate and inspire each other on our journey to get stronger, no matter what that means for us. So if you know that you're meant for more, you're ready to get stronger from the inside out, and you're just like, yes, I need a plan and some structure, something to tell me what to do. I know I'm ready, but I need that coaching. I can't do it alone. We are here for you. You can go to lifelikeLondon.com/strong at home, pick up the plan, figure out when our next VIP all access registration is opening so you can get that support and guidance. And the third thing, I said there was two, but the third thing is you can do both. You can join us for those monthly meetups. You can be there for the 8-week program. You know, this coaching and this support is here for you. We want to get you real results that last so you never have to start over again. And so you guys are awesome. Enjoy this episode. Get connected. Self-love and sweat, friends. Welcome back to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Today we have a special guest. She's been with us before on episode 8, Gia Sinatra. Last time we talked all about body confidence and loving the skin that you're in, loving your body at any size. And today we have Gia back. Not only is she a close friend of mine who I freaking love, but she's back because she started her own plus size clothing line. Her career as a plus size model has totally taken off. And I'm just so excited to have her back here because you guys really loved the episode where we talked a lot about, just body image and focusing on what you feel like and focusing how you're showing up in the world and pretty much taking action anywhere, anytime, no matter, who you are or where you're from. And so it was really cool to have that conversation last time. And Gia Sinatra is back. Gia, how are you? Do a little intro of who you are and tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be back. So I am a plus size model, body positive advocate, and the founder of my new clothing line, Gia IRL, for sizes 12 to 26.
I love it. So cool. Gia IRL, Gia in real life.
Gia in real life.
How'd you come up with the name?
So that was pretty hard of deciding on like the official name, but it came up in a conversation, and I think we were kind of saying it in a joking way, like Gia IRL in real life. And then we were like, oh, it's cute, it's close, but it's not really it. And then after like going through more names for a couple weeks, we came back and we're like, Gia IRL. It's kind of cute. And like, I feel like you get an understanding of what the brand is when you hear it. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah. I love it. No, I think it rolls off the tongue. Gia IRL. I feel like it's like Ziploc or I don't know, like any of those household names, like the things you just know.
Thank
like
you.
It has that ring to it. And I just love it. I think it sounds great. So Gia, I mean, I think we've always kind of said, let's do another podcast, whatever. But after the launch of your clothing line or the day of the actual launch in March, we were having lunch. We went to this like a little like takeout place that has like super healthy bowls. And we were just sitting there like after a full day of like having worked and just doing stuff. And plus like the launch of your brand, like it's so relieving, but somehow like exhausting. And so we were just sitting there at lunch, just eating. And we started having this conversation about how, as women in business and doing our thing online and just kind of really showing up for our work and our purpose, it's sometimes interesting hearing other people's reactions in terms of stuff like marriage and kids and settling down and all these other things that are so highly appreciated or like seen very highly of. And we just were kind of talking about that. So let's kind of start there. And maybe you can share your perspective on how that's felt for you, starting your business, family, people around you, coworkers, like what's been their reaction and how has it been like interesting?
Well, to go back on what you were saying, it's interesting because as you know, I am planning a wedding currently in the midst of opening and starting my own business. Mm-hmm. So, I do feel at times that the wedding is definitely more celebrated in society than the business. I guess just kind of like depending on who you talk to. But a lot of times I feel like people are more excited to talk about wedding, and maybe more women specifically, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like an interesting thing that I have been aware of.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved having that conversation with you too, because like we're such close friends and like you're engaged and about to be married. And like, I'm not sure if I ever want to be married. I think I feel like more called to a long-term partnership, but maybe if that's the case, it might be like what I want to do. So I love that we were having that conversation that day. And I just asked you, I'm like, did you always want to be married? Like, is this something you always thought about? Because I feel like I'm celebrating so much when it comes to the last couple of years of moving back from Austria, revamping my own business completely on my own, doing my thing. And I still get questions from friends and family like, oh, so, well, when are you going to settle down? Or at your age, you should be doing blah, blah, blah. Like people just throw the shoulds around of where they think you should be focused, your time and energy. And so I was kind of sharing that with you too. And yeah, I mean, I love hearing about all aspects of it. Like I love celebrating women. And then I've met a lot of your friends who modeled for your clothing line and stuff like that too. It's so cool and motivating to be around women who celebrate like all different areas of our lives and our growth, right?
Yeah. And I just think everybody has their own individual like goals and aspirations and ways that they consider people to be successful. So it just might be different than what you consider it, or, you know, for you, your wins just might be different than that person's. And it's not really like a right or wrong. It's just like interesting when you look and you kind of, just observe that that's happening in society, and a lot of times with women specifically of the things that we celebrate. And I also think women in business is, you know, we're treated differently than men a lot of times in that way also.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like when it comes to, I don't know, a man starting his own business or being successful in business, it's like applause, like the little clapping, you know? And for women, I feel like the excitement, like we say, just in our experience, what we've noticed is so much more like, and I was just at a wedding in San Francisco this weekend. I got to officiate a wedding. Like, I think they're amazing. And it just feel like, that's not the only thing to be celebrated, but sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, when's like that's like the next expected milestone, or like some like checkpoint we're supposed to cross, you know? And I think you and I were just having the conversation of like, there's different routes and different checkpoints. And like you said, everybody's idea of success is different. And what we've imagined and dreamed for our life can be very different. And like, the secret to happiness, I really feel, is like wanting what you have, believing in, you know, like finding success in the areas where you feel most successful, right? Some people might never be happy doing business, and some people might never be happy, you know, being married and having the kids and doing all the things, if that's not what their definition of success and happiness and like that feeling is. And so I loved having that convo. And what would you say was like was there a moment where in your process? So how long, first, let's say it like this. So how long from like idea to like launch day? Like how was it, a year? I can't remember. I know we've been talking throughout, but.
It's almost a year. I feel like I really hit the ground running, and luckily I had amazing people that were surrounding me that helped me to achieve this in under a year, because really it would have taken a lot longer, but I was just like, okay, let's like go, go, go. I really wanted to launch by the spring, because that's when the idea came to me, and I was not finding the things that I wanted to wear. So I did it in under a year, but that I wouldn't say that that's like an average time. So if it doesn't take you if it takes you longer, I definitely would not be hard on
Longer,
yourself.
shorter. Yeah. It's all relative in terms of getting the right people and like taking the right moves and whatever. But in that year process, I mean, what was like the biggest aha moment, maybe when it comes to being a woman in business or just business in general? Like because a year will fly by, but it's also like a short, long time to like launch a business, make a plan, do all of that too. And you said before that you think that sometimes women are treated differently or just whatever. What were some aha moments for you when you were starting it throughout this year?
Well, when I say that with women, I feel like sometimes there's more doubt put on us. Like, oh, okay, like how are or like how are you going to sell this? Or just it feels like sometimes more questions or doubts around the business, and just like how you're going to do everything and execute your plan.
Yeah. And kind of how you said your facial expressions. I know some people are listening to the podcast, maybe they're watching the video, but your eyebrows went up and you're kind of like, oh, how are you going to do that? And I think
Hmm.
sometimes that's like the funniest part, I feel like, are the nonverbals of people when you talk about things like, I don't know, just whatever, marriage, kid, just everything that's kind of, like we talked about the shoulds of being a woman by a certain age or whatever. You sometimes, at least I've seen it too, where I share my feelings on it or just whatever I'm doing online, whatever. And sometimes you get those like, oh, how are you going to do that? Well, how do you
Hmm.
like, versus a man? I feel like it's just kind of like a cheer and like preconceived success. But
Yeah.
what were you going to say? Go for it.
I think along the way, I've been so passionate about it that I really didn't stop to be like, what happened if it didn't work? Because I just believe in it so much. I feel so passionate about it and making women feel beautiful. And everything kept falling into place so perfectly that I'm like, I know this is right. Like I just felt like it was right. And I think that the people around me believed in me and still believe in me so much that like
Mhm.
that's one of the things that keeps me pushing every day, through the ups and downs of running a
Yeah. Oh,
business.
absolutely. You need tribe. You need people around you that know how to do things that you don't need to do or are just there by your side and will help you keep pushing and making it happen. Like you said, never stopping once to question, like, should I or shouldn't be doing this? Like eye on the prize and having good people in your squad. And then I remember, and we'll talk about this. I want to talk about this too, because there was so many stories of like synchronicities where you're like, oh, I'm looking for somebody that, can help out with this part of the process, or I need to figure out something about this. And it just seemed like everybody and everything kept falling into place. And not that doesn't mean you don't work hard. Obviously, that doesn't mean you're not like, putting in long hours and pushing your limits and doing all of that. But it's such a cool feeling when there is that coherence to be like, I have this idea of what I need to do and, a problem I need to solve and a tool, something to put out there for people that will really help them that I would want to. And no question, I'm just going to go for it. So what was
Mhm.
the moment that you realized? Because as a plus size model, you're wearing a lot of different plus size clothes, probably like, experiencing what a lot of people, model or not, are trying on different clothes in and out of different brands, trying to find things that work for them. And then just feeling frustrated and feeling like there was a problem that you needed to solve. So what was that like? What was that moment when you just realized like, oh shit, I should just start my own line?
Yeah, I felt like my style was just getting lost. Like I couldn't really show my style anymore because I couldn't find the things that I wanted in my size. And so I was like always like shopping and, things just wouldn't go to my size. They'd stop at like a 10, maybe a 12, which is like a large, extra large. I'm sure you see on most sites that they go up to like small, medium, large. Maybe you'll see an extra large, but sometimes those extra larges are still like on the smaller side. So basically, I was shopping and constantly getting frustrated. And one night I found this dress on this site and it didn't go in my size. And I posted it on my story and I was like, gosh, I wish they made stuff like this in my size. And I got like hundreds of responses from women and saying it's so frustrating and this. And one of my friends writes me and was like, why don't you start your own clothing line? And I was like, why not? And then I was up that whole night and I was like, how could I make this work? And I'm like, and I kept thinking about the lack of options and I was like, okay, let me like ask this person and this person. And I just kept putting out my feelers and like, I truly believe what you put out and when you ask for, like you'll get. And I just kept asking and talking to people and along the way between my circle and people that I know, everything just kept falling into place. And it was just like, it just felt like the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, from an outside perspective and like as your friend, it really like was like dominoes, like just like pop, 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 pop. Which of course the
It was
dominoes have
crazy.
to be set up strategically. And if one thing's off, it doesn't, work. We can all visualize dominoes there. But I just remember you feel like I need someone for this, or I need to learn about this, or how are we going to, I don't know, ship sustainably or do all these different things where you were able to just kind of find those people. Tell us the story about Mexico when you were in Mexico and you met, I don't even know what I don't know the vocabulary. So tell us the story about how awesome it is when you start to put out what you want into the universe, like how sometimes things get, and sometimes let's say it like this too. Sometimes we get moments where it's like, that's not what we get kind of sidetracked. Like that's not your thing. But sometimes when it's your thing and it, like shit gets delivered to you on the silver platter. Like it's just like, voila, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had moments like that in my life. And I know that this was one of them for you too. So share it with us.
Now, mind you, there were situations or people that I was like, this isn't quite right. But then something else fell into place. So like one thing that before I go into that, I feel like this time around, what feels different for me is in the past, I've tried to do so many things myself, which of course you have to do things yourself. But asking for help and hiring people has been such a game changer. I think that sometimes we try to take on, I don't know about other people, but I try to take on so much myself and like, okay, I'm going to learn this, that. And it's like, sometimes you do just need to like find people to help you or do things for you. And so asking for help has been a game changer. But so we were basically at the point where we just needed somebody to make the clothes. We had the designs, we had like what fabrics we wanted to use. We had everything ready. We just needed someone to make the clothes. And originally I wanted to do everything domestically. Yes. And so we met with a few people and just wasn't feeling right for me. And I go to Mexico for a girls' trip and I meet this woman, these two girls, and we're at the pool hanging out. And we end up hanging out with them all night, all day, all night. We're in the hot tub. And I end up telling one of the girls that I'm starting a clothing line, a plus size clothing line and this and that. And and she ends up telling me that's what she does for a living is she helps people bring their clothing lines to life with the production, the fabrics, the sourcing, everything. And I remember like texting one of my girls. I'm like, I met this girl in Mexico. She's going to help us. And, at that time, I'm sure it sounded like, maybe just a crazy,
like a few too many drinks and you make best friends. Yeah. I know that happens sometimes too. Though, so.
Yeah. Well, and maybe there were a few drinks involved, but it worked out in my favor. And, Pippa, she has a business called Creative Consulting, and she has just been heaven sent and has helped me with everything production wise. And she continues to help me and try to find me the best ways to do things and help me to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so cool. So cool. And you still have your spidey senses out and still be paying attention, or I should say your Scorpio senses out. Like you need to, me and Gia are both Scorpios, proud Scorpios, but it's like you need to vet people and, let them prove themselves. And like you said, there's sometimes people, same for me too in business, they make great promises and you think they're going to do what they're going to do, but it's just like, I don't know, not on the same page. Or sometimes people just don't even deliver. Sometimes people say they do one thing X, Y, or Z, and really, they're not that good at it at all or don't have as much experience as we once thought. But it's great when you have those moments of just being like, hey, I am in Mexico on a girls' trip, just kind of putting out, talking about what I'm doing and with other women who support and uplift. And, who'd have thunk you'd just meet somebody that way. But that's super cool. So awesome.
So cool. And definitely like listening to my intuition, because there has been things along the way where I'm like, yeah, that just doesn't feel right. And it just doesn't feel like that is the right person or, thing to do for this business. And so I think it's important to also listen to that in anything, but especially in business.
Yeah. And just getting good at it. Because over time you will make not mistakes, but just choose things where you're like, oh, I might have chosen that instead. But just over time with repetitions, just like with anything, yeah, that intuition can be very powerful too. Very powerful too.
Yeah. Because sometimes you look back and you're like, oh, I felt like it was off, but it also felt like the easy way. So I was going with it. That
Mhm.
happened to me.
Mhm.
And I'm like, nope, got to listen to my intuition. No more. If it doesn't feel right, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, totally. What have you learned the most about yourself over this last year? Because any woman, I don't even say woman in business, but just in general, when you break through a barrier and like accomplish something or go after a dream or a goal, it's not necessarily, and maybe you'll agree, like the start and then the finish. It's like everything that you learn and the journey. Like that's what makes it all everything. So what have you learned the most about yourself since creating a Gia IRL till now?
Wow, that's a great
Mhm.
question. I just feel like I have learned just really how hard of a worker I am and how my strength to just keep pushing. And like, I knew that I've always been a hard worker, but this has really like pushed the limit on the amount of like work and strength that I needed for
Hmm.
this.
Hmm. Yeah, we're capable of so much more than we actually think sometimes. It's just like there needs to be that mission or that passion that we're going after that just like you said, you're like, I didn't realize I could, line it up and knock it down so well. That's so cool.
Hmm.
Um, what was I remember there was like, there is a lot going on in the world. And I remember like,
Hmm.
not sure when samples were going to arrive, when things were going to be, the launch date was, always like for spring, but kind of up in the air in terms of the exact
Hmm.
date. And that must have been really intense or like scary. Were you afraid that things weren't going to show up? Like, what was your thought process when it was kind of like just the waiting game for things to arrive and for people to be able to wear your stuff and get your stuff?
Interesting enough, I actually never was concerned about it arriving or, I just, it felt same thing. Like I knew it was coming and I knew it was like, okay, it might be delayed a little bit, but I always felt good about it. I think it was very stressful because, we did production overseas in China,
Mhm.
because at that time was the best fit for the company and the quality that we wanted. So, they have Chinese New Year where they take off like a month and a half. And so everything shuts down completely. And so that was probably one of the most stressful parts is because it's right after our holidays. So they work through all of our holidays. So we were working through all of the holidays and like on major crunch time to get to that Chinese New Year where they could put everything on a ship and take off. And so there was one dress that like gave us problems at the very end, but it made it and it made the cutoff. But so, yeah, I think that was the biggest stress is just like making it to that deadline. But once everything was on the boat, I was like, we're good. It's going to get here. And we had wiggle room. So I was like, even if it gets here in March, it's fine because, spring just officially started on Sunday. So I feel like people are now like, okay, let's get dresses and, we're ready for spring.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's finally a time, not everywhere, but, where people are ready to get dressed up and go out and do things and
Hmm.
celebrate spring and be outside. And all your pieces are so amazing. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, so cool. What would you say, like, or how would you describe how the reaction is to the clothes and how are women feeling in your pieces? And is it how you wanted them to feel?
Yeah, so far we're getting a great reaction. Everyone is feeling beautiful and good. And, I just wanted plus size women to feel beautiful and sexy and trendy and chic, just like, and give them all the same options that everyone else has. And so far I'm getting really, really good reactions. So that makes it all worth it because at the end of the day, my passion comes down to just making women feel beautiful and look beautiful. And so like just seeing that and seeing how they feel in the clothes is
Mhm.
like all worth it.
Yeah,
Worth
and
all the craziness, long
you
nights, early mornings, working on holidays.
I know it has to be like it is worth it. It has to be, And I remember you trying or getting the sizes and then putting them on all different like body types, all different
Hmm.
women, height, sizes, everything. So was there anything you learned from that? Cause it's not just your size anymore. It's a lot of different
Hmm.
women and their different body types. And so what did you learn kind of there?
Definitely. I feel like we're kind of like learning as we go and continuing to evolve and just like, taking different body types into consideration. So our stuff is pretty true to size, but we had a few things in different sizes where we're learning like, okay, next time around we need to adjust a little bit here or there. And like, I think that's one of the great parts about the brand is that we are willing to hear the feedback and make changes and that kind of thing. So like we've already refit everything and made like little changes here and there. Like, okay, in this size, let's start adding a little bit more room here, there, just kind of adjusting to the different body sizes. So we're definitely taking the different body types and body sizes into consideration. And then definitely down the road, I'd love to expand sizes and have different options for short women and tall women and all that kind of stuff and everything in between. But, there's only so much we can do at this point in time.
Yeah. I mean, start where you are, right? I was going to say start small, but that's not true. It's just like start where you are. All your pieces are so beautiful, so amazing. How many pieces do you have in this first drop?
So in drop 1, there's 8. In drop 2, that's coming next month, there's 4 more pieces. And then we have some summer things in the works. And then we have like another exciting drop in the works that I'm not going to announce quite yet, but we'll leave the people guessing.
Yeah. So there's more coming, obviously. So.
There's more. Yeah. There's a drop that I'm super excited about that's coming hopefully in the end of summer, like sometime during the summer.
A drop I'm super excited about that I can't tell you about, but I'm excited about it. I love all the names of your clothes and like the dresses. And I know that they're not just like randomly selected names out of a hat. Tell us how you named your clothing pieces.
So the Gia dresses are named after me, of course. And then the Gianna is my full name. And then Gigi is my nickname that my nieces and my nephew call me. And then I have a piece in this collection that's named after my niece, Maya, the Maya Mini. And then I have a piece named after my sister. And in the next drop, another piece named after my other sister and my other niece.
Oh, nice. You got to get everybody in. You can't remember your little niece was like, is everybody fighting over my dress?
She asks me that every time that we talk.
And
she's like, are they fighting?
Seller, right? Isn't it the best?
It is. Yeah. I have to tell her every time I talk to her that the Maya dress is the best seller.
And that's so cool and so special. And like, that's not just about, obviously it's about helping women feel beautiful in their clothes, stuff that fits, some stuff that they can wear. But it's also like for your family too, something that's kind of like a legacy and what you're leaving behind, and not just, like I said, pulling names out of a hat, but choosing things with meaning. And I always think that's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like along the way, like I see a piece and I'm like, I'm going to name it after this person. And like some people will find out like a surprise in the next couple of drops, like, oh, this was named after me. How fun.
Yeah, no, seriously. You pick a random fan. I'm sure they'll love it. You like blew up on TikTok right away. You like created your TikTok account for Gia IRL, started talking about your plus size clothing line. And I just feel like, oh my gosh, it was just, people were so excited for and so hungry for this, to be able to have clothing that fits and like for someone to like hear them. I remember seeing all the little, like, I guess I don't spend a ton of time on TikTok, but like the little, question comments that you can kind of put there and answer for people. Were you surprised by that, by how fast that took off? Or were you just like, yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked because the first video I posted went viral and I didn't really put much thought into it. Like it was just like the voiceover, like I started my own plus size clothing line. And then it was just like, it just went by, like it's almost up to 1 million views and it was just like growing and growing. And so I was getting on and talking to people and I was completely blown away by the reactions that we're getting. And, I think so many people are so excited. And then, some people also are like, expecting this huge clothing line. And, sometimes I have to go on and remind them, like, it's just me. I'm self-funded. Like, we're going to continue to grow and have these things. But like, there's only so much one person can do. I mean, not one person, because I have a huge team at this point of people helping me, but you know what I mean? It's like, there's only so much that I can do, starting off. So the goal is to become a huge brand and have all these different things that we're offering, and pants and tops and all, so many different things. So I try to get on and like chat with people, and same on Instagram, and take polls and see what people want and try to make them the things that they're looking for. And like, as we grow, we'll someday have just like a huge line
absolutely.
of options for everyone. Well, everyone, in a certain size range.
Totally. Yeah, no, agreed. And I think, it's like, how do you know what people like? You can't just like dish out a bunch of stuff. And I remember being at your house after the launch, and you guys were just making some short adjustments on different things based on feedback. So it's like there has to be that communication and feedback of like, yeah, before we make a bunch of these or make multiple in different colors and all these different, options that people want. It's like you have to make sure it fits right and it makes sense. And it's just cool to as a friend, and then as people watching, just like to watch it from start to finish, and your full transparency and sharing stuff on TikTok, answering people's questions, like telling people where to find the size chart a million times. You're like always sharing, this means this. People still ask, because they're just so excited. They forget to look at the website or the questions or the previous videos. And you were just like so all up in the trenches just with people listening. And so I say that because I'm sure people listening here are using, are going to your site and getting clothes or wanting to share their impact or their input, and you getting feedback from you. And you totally do that. Like you're all up in your DMs, answering the questions, giving people feedback. Is that like time consuming for you? Do you love doing that? Does it feel overwhelming or?
It can feel overwhelming at times, but I do love it. I think, one thing about me that might be different than other brands is that I am plus size, just like all the women that are shopping. And I've been almost every size that I carry. And, I've been plus size my whole life. So I'm like, I get it. I get all of your frustrations. And, so I feel like I'm one of them. Like I'm the same. So I like to get on and chat with them and like, hear their concerns and all that stuff. And also being plus size, sizing has always been so all over the place. Like we don't even know what our true sizing is anymore. So if I say, oh, it's pretty true to size, like what is true to size? Because our sizing is so all over the place. So, I totally get a lot of those questions too, because everyone has a different size guide for us. I mean, I feel like straight size is kind of similar, but ours is really different, where every single brand has a different size guide. So people are like, how do I figure out my size in this?
Yeah, no. And it's important to know that for sure. I always feel like I'm learning so many new words from you. So let me just say which ones. IRL, I didn't know that meant in real life until all of this. Straight size, I didn't know that was a straight size and plus size. I heard that at your the photo shoot where they were talking. Some of the models were talking amongst themselves. And then the other word, you know what word I'm talking about, but I'm trying to remember it. What is it? Snatched.
Oh yeah, snatched.
Snatched. So Gia she's like a model and does all the cool things in LA. She's always like super hip. All of her friends they're so amazing, but they just are so in the know. And I'm over here like, wait, what words are you saying?
Well, a lot of the girls.
What? A lot of the girls.
A lot of the models are like in their, younger to mid 20s too.
Okay, so they're like, rubbing off on you, and then you're rubbing off on my old ass.
They keep us young. Well, this term straight size, I think, comes from the modeling industry. Okay. That's how we differentiate between straight size and plus size models. And now there's like other terms that have come into play of like curve model, street size, and like, but the standard is you're either straight size, or if you're like, which is so crazy, about like a 4'6" and up, you're like considered plus size in the industry. But now they're kind of changing that like middle area to have a term for that if you're like between this size. But so I would say, yeah, straight size came from the modeling industry.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I'm learning new things. And I think it's, helpful to know some of those terms. So then so let's talk about Gia IRL and where people can shop, what sizes they can expect, and maybe some of the like materials and stuff that you feel like is super great for what you're doing.
So right now we're sizes 12 to 26, basically like extra large to a 4X. And in the next drop, we're going to be expanding to a 5X in one of our dresses, which I'm really excited about because on TikTok, they were asking for larger sizes. So we're going to give them a larger size. And then right now we have 3 different fabrics. We have satin, linen, and like a modal. It's like a jersey fabric. So I really wanted good quality fabrics. I think that was lacking in the plus size clothing of just like good quality pieces and fabrics.
Cool. Yeah. And it all is so awesome. It looks so great. I've had the opportunity to see a lot of the pieces in real life throughout the different phases and stages. And now it's like so cool to see my friend like doing cool shit. Her clothing is out there. People are wearing it. People are loving it. And so thank you for what you're doing, Gia. You're bringing your gifts into the world. You're not hibernating and complaining about anything. You're just showing up and taking action where you see problems. And that's why I love you, my Scorpio sister. Where can people find you guys on social media and your website? Say all that stuff.
So Gia IRL, Gia_IRL is where you can find me on Instagram, TikTok. Our website is giairl.com, and you can find my personal page at Gia Sinatra on Instagram and TikTok.
Cool. And I'll link everything in the show notes. Thank you for being here, Gia. Love you.
Thanks for having me. Love you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a review. This really helps a lot. And share this with a friend. I'm only one person, and with your help, we can really spread the message of self-love and sweat and change more lives all around the world. I'm Lunden Souza, reminding you that you deserve a life full of passion, presence, and purpose, fueled by self-love and sweat. This podcast is a Hit Spot Austria production.